good day, everybody. Welcome back to another episode live from Jerusalem with Rabbi Chaim Goldberg. We're still doing the Genesis class. Rabbi Goldberg's been at this for nearly a year on his Genesis class, and we were hooked up with our friends in Vilnius, Lithuania for quite a while before that. I think we even started in Genesis there as well. Lots of episodes up there. I encourage everybody to get out there. Check out all those episodes on the Noah Hyde World Center YouTube page specifically. They're all over social media. But this class, I'm sorry, we're a couple of minutes behind. There was a little bit of technical difficulties there in Jerusalem, but we're joined by many people all over the world. I see Hans down in South America. I see Michaela over in Italy. I see Harish over in India, Daniel down in South America, Lelena in the Philippines, people from all over the planet. Let's just jump right in, see how Rabbi Goldberg's doing, and let's begin the class. Rabbi Goldberg, always a joy. Thank you so much for sharing Torah with the world.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Good to see you all from all over the world. We have people here in this classroom. It's really a great opportunity for us, for everybody, to start to do the peace in this world, to bring peace to this world from all over the world. This is very good. I hope everybody is okay. Here in Israel, we're starting to see the light, at the end of this coronavirus. But I will tell you the truth, even though we have today more than 4 million people who got the vaccine, it's more than half of the people of the Israeli population. It won't help us if we won't be able to defeat this coronavirus all over the world, because Israel won't be able to be, a place that is not related to the others. So hopefully, I hope that everybody else also will manage somehow to defeat this coronavirus, and we'll come back to the normal place that we were before the coronavirus. I'm blessing the world for that. Okay, tonight we're starting to go. We're continuing on like we did before that also. We're continuing on with the Genesis studies, and we came to chapter number 11. If it's okay, I will share the screen in just a moment. Yeah, I will share the screen, and we spoke already. I said it more than once. I will mention this again. We finished 10 chapters and a few more. Just a moment.
Yeah. Abraham Rastegar, if you could please mute your microphone. Thank you all.
Exactly. Yes, fine. Okay, so I said it more than once, and I will say this again. I need to emphasize this. People need to know that our holy scriptures, the Bible that we're speaking about in the first 11 chapters, is not mentioning the Hebrew nation. Oh, it's mentioning, it's with all of the 70 nations, but this is not the main thing. The main thing is speaking about man and the relationship that he have with God, and that he didn't do the right thing, therefore God threw him out or took him out from Eden, and then the relationship between man and his fellow man, Cain and Abel, and it's continuing on those levels till chapter 11. And from chapter 11, we will start to concentrate more and more about the Hebrew people and to understand what is their role in this world and what they're bringing. And this week, I want to start with Abraham, and I'm going to show something that is not fully in the scriptures. Okay, it's also related to the things that we got from the oral Bible that we have, as we explained more than once. And we will start with the scriptures, and then we will continue on. So please, Dan, if it's okay with you, as usual, okay, we're going to read few verses. We're going to start from verse number 10, and we're going to read it till the end, almost the end of this chapter. Okay, I want to till verse number 26. Okay, so from verse number 10. Yes, please.
All right. These are the generations of Shem. Shem was 100 years old, and he begot Arphaxad 2 years after the flood. And Shem lived after he had begotten Arphaxad 500 years, and he begot sons and daughters. And Arphaxad lived 35 years, and he begot Shelah. And Arphaxad lived after he had begotten Shelah 403 years, and he begot sons and daughters. And Shelah lived 30 years, and he begot Eber. And Shelah lived after he had begotten Eber 403 years, and he begot sons and daughters. And Eber lived 34 years, and he begot Peleg. And Eber lived after he had begotten Peleg 430 years, and he begot sons and daughters. And Peleg lived 30 years, and he begot Reu. And Peleg lived after he had begotten Reu 209 years, and he begot sons and daughters. And Reu lived after he had begotten Serug. Reu lived 32 years. He begot Serug, and Reu lived after he had begotten Serug 207 years, and he begot sons and daughters. And Serug lived 30 years, and he begot Nahor. And Serug lived after he had begotten Nahor 200 years, and he begot sons and daughters. And Nahor lived 29 years, and he begot Terah. And Nahor lived after he had begotten Terah 119 years, and he begot sons and daughters.
Now 26, 27. This is the most very important.
26. And Terah lived 70 years, and he begot Abram, Nahor, and Haran. These are the generations of Terah. Terah begot Abram, Nahor, and Haran begot Lot. And Haran died during the lifetime of Terah, his father, in the land of his birth in the Ur of the Chaldees.
Okay, now and it's continuing on and saying to us also who got married with whom. In verse number 30, it's also mentioning, please read verse number 30.
And Sarai was barren. She had no child.
Okay, fine. Now, the most important part of this thing, we can speak a lot about the names, the mentioning. If we will compare this chapter, and we will try to compare this chapter to chapter number 5, where we have also a list of 10 generations. If you will put your pen and paper, you will see that we spoke here about 10 generations. And also in chapter number 5, we have 10 generations. So we will see that the time that they lived before the flood was much more longer time than the time that they're living here. And the time is also going and getting narrow, less and less the time that they're living in their life. But the most important part that we need to realize is we know exactly who was the father of Abraham. In the oral Bible, we also know who exactly was the mother of Abraham. But Abraham, that was a giant. I'm speaking spiritually. He was a giant in this world. He managed to influence so many people along history. So many people want to be related with Abraham. Abraham spoke about freedom of men. Abraham spoke about not to kill anybody else, not also your son. Abraham gave so many things to this world. He was a great inspiration for millions of people along history. But he was a human being who was born to father and mother. We know exactly who was his father, who was his mother. And this is the main, I will say, starting point of the Hebrew nation. The Hebrew nation takes people, okay, that are the foundation of our nation. I will show this in a moment in another very big, important figure that we have. People who started our nation. In a moment, we will speak about the name Abraham, okay? People who started this nation. Those are real people who lived here that were born, to father and mother. They were walking here in this world. They did few things in this world. And after a few years, Abraham, after 175 years, they passed away. They got buried somewhere. That's it. I know they gave a very big inspiration to this world. Fine. But still, they are people. They did hear something giant. They did hear something big, something unbelievable. But there were people. There were people. I'm saying it, and sometimes people saying to me, "Don't speak like that." They ate, and they also had all the body organization that they were supposed to have in their lives. They were normal people. I know, or we know that from them we learned a lot. We're going to learn a bit about Abraham. I want to show the same thing about someone else also that we have in our legacy, I will say it like that. And before we'll go, maybe I will say a few words. What is the word Abraham? Avram. In the beginning, it's Avram. The word Avram is basically combined with two words. The first word is Av. Av is father. And Ram is, the second word is Ram. Ram is someone very important, someone very high level. Okay? He is the father of, he is a very important father. I will say it like that. This is Avram. He is the father, and we're speaking about him as the father of the Hebrew nation. There is another person, very important person, that we know, and the same level, the Bible is trying to explain and to show us that we won't get confused. I will say it like that. Okay, we won't get confused about who is you and who is me, and who brought them and from where they came and everything else. And the second person I'm going to explain is about Moses. If you're going to Exodus chapter 6, okay, we have here, we're not going to read all of this, but we will see that how it starts here. Please read verse number 14.
14. These following are the heads of the fathers' houses. The sons of Reuben, Israel's firstborn, Enosh, Palu, Hezron, and Carmi. These are the families of Reuben.
And then we're going to the families of Simon. And then we're going to the families of the Levites. Okay. And from the families of Levites, we are continuing on to who exactly was the fathers and mothers of Moses. Again, the same thing. Now, look, we must admit, Moses, if we didn't have Moses in our world, so he is the only one who managed to bring the words of God to reality as the Bible that we know today. Only Moses managed to do that. And if we didn't have him in our world, we didn't have the Old Testament that we have today, what we call the Old Testament. It's not old, it's the main testament, okay? The testament of the speak, the will of God with us today. The Torah that we have today. So he is a giant. He is really a giant. He brought something that all of the universe, we have the Torah, we have a book. It's in the United States Library. We have a book with 2,000 opening the first languages, different languages that the Torah was translated to. 2,000 languages along history that people translated the Torah. So it's something giant. It's something unbelievable. It's managed to influence almost all of the universe. Fine. But still, he is a man, and he was born to a father, to a mother. Okay? He wasn't like in other religious dynasties or whatever it is. Also, it's not only in Jesus Christ and all of those that they spoke about this. We find it also in Athens, and we find it also in the old Greeks, that they're saying that the people who started their nations were aliens. We're not speaking like that. Those are people that are living here. By the way, the head or the father of Moses was his name was Amram. You see that? This is the name of the father of Moses. What is Amram? First of all, it's the same word. The second word, like Abraham. You see that? Ram, we said that it's something high. It's something that is representing something that is very, very important, very unique, that people are looking saying, wow, we want to be like that. But here, the word is not Avram, father, but Am. Am is nation. Okay? So we have from one side, we have Abraham, who is the father of the very important nation. On the other side, we have Moses, who is the son of the very important nation. Amram is important nation. Moses is the son of this important nation. So now we also have some sort of a relationship. What exactly are the relationship? Abraham is the first one. He is the father of this high nation. And Moses is the son of this high nation. Okay? We're starting to see that there is connection between the things. But again, the main thing is we need to know that those are people who lived here. Who do we see that is very afraid, I will say, that Gentiles, not Jewish people, will take and will do a Jewish person who died as like he is an alien? Who he saw that did it? Jacob. I will show it to you in a moment. It's amazing to see that also with Jacob. But I will say one more important thing. Another month from now, we're going to sit down, what we call the Leila Seder. We're going to sit down in Passover and to share the story that we went out from Egypt with our kids, like we're doing for the last 4,000 years. In this night, we are not mentioning Moses at all. You know why? Because we don't want to put him in a position like he was the main alien here. He was only a messenger of God to take the Hebrew people out from Egypt. We don't want to put him as someone who is alien. Moses is a man. Very important to know that, notice that. Let's look for a moment what is happening with Jacob in his last days. Okay, just a moment. Here it is. No, one chapter before that. Sorry. Please read verse number 29.
29. When the time drew near for Israel to die, he called his son Joseph and said to him, "If I have now found favor in your eyes, now place your hand beneath my thigh, and you shall deal with me with loving kindness and truth. Do not bury me now in Egypt."
Why? Why doesn't he want to be buried in Egypt? So we can explain a lot of things. I want to see, for a moment, I want to show Rashi for that, okay? And to see exactly what is bothering him. Why doesn't he want to be buried in Egypt? Just a moment, let's find it again. Here it is.
You want me to read Rashi, Rabbi?
Do not bury me in Egypt. He is giving, just a moment, I will show you what to do. He's giving 3 explanations. We're not going to go to those explanations, all of them, but we're going to go to the third one.
So that the Egyptians will not deify me.
Very, very simple. If you will bury me here in Egypt, some of them might bring me to a situation where they will say that I'm like the aliens. Okay, now look at this good. We have 3 people Moses took us out from Egypt. With Moses we have Aaron, his brother, and Miriam, his sister. There are 3 from the same family. Okay, 3 people from the same family, 3 brothers and sisters, and 1 sister. We don't know where they got buried. We don't know. We don't know where they are. You know why? So people won't do them And the same thing, they won't defy them, they won't bring them to a level like they are the aliens. And the same thing is starting with Abraham. This is the most important thing that we need to understand. We know exactly who is the father of Abraham. We will learn also who are the kids of Abraham. Okay, we know everything. And he is part of a human being who was here in this world and managed to do a big change in this world, a huge change, a giant change, okay? The most biggest change in this world, okay? Most biggest influence in the nations here in this world. But he was a man who was living here in this world. This is a very important point that we need to know as an opening statement. If we're starting to speak about Avram, the father of this very high Aristotelical nation that we have here in this world. Questions?
Yes, Rabbi Chaim, can you clarify what you mean when you say the word aliens? Do you mean aliens like the creatures with the black eyes coming in a UFO? What do you mean when you say the word aliens?
I'm saying that we know that for a lot of places or a lot of nations, they said that the beginning of the nation started with some sort of a God,
a higher power
that came to this world. Exactly. All sorts of ideas like that. And this is how it started, the nation started. The Hebrew nation is saying that we had very big, giant people here who did a lot of inspiration to this world, who gave a lot of inspiration to this world. Till today, people want to get connected with Abraham. People want to get connected with Moses. People see that those figures and other figures in the Hebrew, Bible, those are figures that we want to go on their footsteps. But we are never saying that they were aliens, that they were God, that they were angels. They were people who lived in this world and behaved in a very certain way that we have a lot of what to learn from them. But they were only people. We know exactly who was their father and who was their mother. Not like all the other nations who started with all sorts of ideas up there about angels or aliens who came and started the nations. I was clear enough, please?
I understand, Rabbi. I've studied a lot of history, though.
Okay, so you can tell us about other places. It's not. By the way, it's not only the Christian world who is saying that Jesus Christ was part of God or something like that. They are not the only one. There are a lot of old, ancient nations who are speaking in this terminology. Not only the Hebrew, the Christian world is speaking about that.
So I'll just mention, Rabbi Chaim, that we brought it up in the past. I'll just give it a plug again. Sefer Kuzari, the Kuzari book, where Rabbi Shirky also has his own commentary on this book, but there are plenty of other wonderful editions, also from Art Scroll, etc. In the beginning, Rabbi Shirky discusses why there is this inclination among the ancient people. He also analyzes the Christian theology, why there was this inclination to kind of get God involved in the startup of the nation, like to get some sort of deity involved and not have it at the hands of human beings, as you're saying.
And what does Rabbi Cherky say, Lee?
So I'll leave it up to your homework, and Rabbi Chaim, if you like, can also expand. It requires a little bit of backstory, so I don't think I'll do it justice in 2 sentences.
We need to speak about this. We need Chacham Dan, okay?
Rabbi Goldberg, you really explained this. I think you've already covered this when you said that point. It was at the 3rd or 4th generation where men began to call on the name of Hashem. It was a real bad thing, and things started to change at that point. Was it the 3rd generation or 4th generation? I believe it was when people began to call on the name. And that's when they started to do that deification. And I've done my best to track this archaeologically. I still have conflicts because, as the passage you've read today, I've been told from some wonderful Jewish people that the calendar actually began during Shelah, the father of Eber. Okay, that's when the Hebrew calendar factually began. It's just the beginning of the calendar. Yet many rabbis still hold that that's when Adam received the breath of life. And to study the true tangible archaeology is still a conflicting thing in a lot of people's eyes.
I agree with you, Dan. I didn't went inside to that too much. If we will go for a moment to this chapter, I didn't want to go inside to this. If you want, I can speak with you about this in person. We are missing, I will say it like that, we are missing something like 1,000 years if we are counting only on the numbers that we have here in this chapter. So there is also some sort of a way to count it a bit differently. And to say, you see that it says here in the beginning of this chapter, you see, the generation, Shem was 100 years old, and he begot of Pachshad, okay? 2 years after the flood. And now we're saying that he was 100 years old, and it's also referring to the others, while it's not mentioning there. So we're putting another 1,000 years here. It's a bit more complicated. If you want, I will speak with you personally about this. I don't want to involve everybody to this problem.
Sure, Rabbi.
The differences of the times that we have here, and we have the differences of time between archaeology and what we know from the Bible. The most important thing is to know, again, that the Bible is not always speaking about chronicle time or things like that. It's more trying to teach us the words of God and the will of God, and to discuss. We said it, and I think that this is one of the most important things. I see that with the time, I didn't manage to speak about things I wanted to speak, more things I wanted to speak today. But one of the most important things that we need to learn with Abraham, and we're going to do this next week, is the question when we are looking at this world, okay? As already when we are 3 years old, we're starting to realize that from one side, the world is working through the system of the nature, okay, of nature, without any personal intent. Now, look good what's happening for young kids. When they're falling on the ground or something, so what are we doing as parents? Or what are the kids are doing? And we are imitating them also. We're starting to smack, to hit the ground and to say, no, it's a bad thing you did to this boy. But this is when they are only 2 years old, 3 years old. But usually what's happening after that, the kids and everybody is starting to realize that this part of the world, nature, have no personal intention when they're doing things. It's not something that you can speak about and say to the nature laws, he did it to me in purpose. It's something without, it's a structure that it's not working on a personal level. While I'm, as a person, I'm starting to have also my personal feelings, I'm different a bit from the world. Something here is a bit different. This is a recognition that we have already when we are 2, 3, 4 years old, in the beginning of our lives. And one of the main things that Abraham brought to this world, we have two ways how God is showing himself in this world. In one way, he's showing himself through the nature, and on the other side, he's showing himself through people, okay, through the intention of the free will of each one of us. And those two things, and we spoke about this more than once, each one of us have also some part, image of God, okay? We have the will that we have, the free will that we have is part of that we got only from God. And now those two things, those two ways of God to bring the world to a better place are combined together. Now the question is, with what structure we are leading ourselves? We are leading ourselves as we speaking about ourselves, and this is more or less how part of the philosophers in Germany spoke about this like that. Okay, we're speaking about ourselves that we are just like the nature, but a bit more complicated. I'll say it like that, or that we are something else, and we have spark of God inside ourselves. Those are two different ways how to look on life. Abraham took the other side, the main side, that we have also spark of God. There are people who just stayed like the nature, but we are much more, smart than all of the rest of the nature. Those are two things. We're going to speak about this more in profound way next week. It's related to the oral Bible that we have. It's not written down loud and clear. It's only hinted inside the Bible, along all the Bible, but we have also an oral Bible with us. And we're going to explain this next week. How is the right way to view this world? And it's a very important way that will influence the way that we're going to behave with ourselves, with our fellow men, okay, and with God. Those are the differences. We will continue on next week, as usual. Well, we can't finish everything in one day. Rome wasn't built in one day. This is how you say it, right?
Nice to see Shannon join us there.
Who is here?
Yeah, Shannon in the UK.
Hi,
It's just a joy to have you here, Shannon. Say hello to Tony.
Good evening, Shannon. Wow, English. Long time no see. It's okay. Good time.
No,
Good
really. I don't know how to turn on my camera. I don't know. I'm doing something wrong. I'm doing something wrong here.
Fine. Everything is fine.
There we go.
Whoa! Good to see you. Good to see you now.
Hello.
Okay.
It's good to see you, Rabbi.
Okay. Unless you have any questions about things that we spoke, if not, Lee is going to take Lee is going to lead us now to continue us with the
Brit Shalom.
And we are here.
All right. Hi, everybody. A good week to everybody. I hope you're all doing well, and wishing you all and your loved ones health and spiritual and physical health at this time and always. So we're picking up. Oh, I forgot to share my screen. We're picking up at the end of chapter 5, and we'll just give the backdrop where we're holding in Brit Shalom, Daily Living for Noahides. We're holding in the section that I titled Man and Fellow. Okay, we kind of laid the foundation, what to believe, who's considered a Noahide, etc., idolatry, blasphemy, and we're speaking now about the preservation of human life. Soon enough, we'll get to family, etc. So within chapter 5, let me just increase the text size. Okay, within chapter 5, we spent a good deal of time last session talking about clause 19 here. This being the case of two walking alone in the desert, and there being a bottle of water. One of them has enough water basically to sustain himself. Is he required to split the water, to give it to his fellow? What do we need to do there? And also, we discussed how this Talmudic precedent is used along with other Talmudic sources for practical applications today. We spoke about some certain medical situations that our sages give clear rulings in based on such Talmudic precedents. And just to summarize, basically there are more or less 3 levels. The first being where there is virtually no risk to the one involved. Okay, my friend is in danger. There's virtually no risk, or there's maybe a small risk involved to me in getting involved. So there, not only am I allowed to, I'm actually required to get involved. And if I don't, then I'm basically I'm not fulfilling a different commandment, which is not standing idly by, as it said in the verse, not standing idly by your brother's blood. So this being the first level, it being relatively clear. The second level being a little bit more difficult, which is where there's kind of like a 50-50. There's a pretty, there's some risk, it's kind of you have to debate. Basically, it's not an obligation, but it's permitted. It's permitted for somebody to get involved and even to get to take on some amount of risk in saving their neighbor, saving their friend from danger. And the third, being the most difficult, where there is very clearly a risk involved and a high risk at that. And in such a situation, basically the practical ruling is that one may get involved, but it's important to note that there are also opinions that actually forbid a person from getting involved. And the reasoning is clear, and it's taken really from such a situation that we have in clause 19, where who am I basically to get involved in the situation and to judge that my blood is redder or that his blood is redder? So it's important to know. Obviously, these are difficult situations, but it's important to know some of the logic behind this. Okay, and then we spoke about a very kind of broad but far-reaching statement from Maimonides. Okay, about God forbid bloodshed, and how even though idolatry and illicit relations are sins committing between man and God, and they're very severe, they don't destroy the world. They don't destroy civilization, and God created the world for it to be, as it said, as we're reading in Genesis, okay, for us to be fruitful and multiply, to use the world to bring His will into fruition. This is the sin that is most clearly going against this desire of God, is God forbid murder. Okay, so along these same lines, and then we'll get a little bit more into also how human beings deal with animals. Okay, so we're continuing in chapter 5, clause 21. A person should not assault anyone, man or woman, whether an adult or a minor, whether by striking, injuring, or wounding the other person, or by seducing or raping the other person. So I hope that many of these instances are irrelevant to such a holy crowd as you all. It's important to note that there is a caveat here, which is actually brought, I think, in footnote 158, discussing educating children. There's one thing with regards to state law, civil laws, it's called, but nevertheless, the Torah. In terms of Torah law, the Torah does provide some dispensation, some permission for parents to use some manner of like a physical discipline. Obviously, you need to be very careful in doing such a thing, and the rabbis are very clear that even if that needs to be applied, then it should not come from a place of anger. It should, a person, one of our rabbis here in Israel talks about a person kind of taking time aside, letting the emotions cool, and if that's a necessary tool, then it being very, very calculated. So there is some level of dispensation for this in the Torah worldview, but it needs to be used incredibly carefully. Okay, 22. Obviously this is we spoke about cases previously about self-defense. So obviously self-defense is a very high priority. Here it's talking about it's not involved in self-defense. Okay, a person initiating such an assault. Okay, clause 22. Whoever strikes another person is called wicked, and striking a Jew is especially heinous. And this basically is along the lines of what we've spoken about previously, that basically the God choosing the Jewish people to be like the conduit of prophecy, the conduit of His will into the world, and striking a Jew, God forbid, killing a Jew, it's basically destroying this conduit. But striking any person is a wicked act. Okay, I see there's some flashing. Feign anger. Wonderful. Okay, so I'm not sure who wrote. I don't know who. I think this is Dan, maybe. But yes, he's including here a great phrase, which is brought also in Maimonides. Rabbis bring to feign anger. That I believe it's Maimonides who writes that in the event that a parent needs to use some manner of physical discipline, then, as we said, it needs to be very calculated. You need to go cool off. You need to make sure that this is exactly the right tool in such a situation. Excuse me. And somehow, okay, and this is obviously an incredibly tall order, and as we've seen from our previous discussions, the Torah is demanding quite a bit from the human being to reach some level of godliness. So somehow the parent needs to simultaneously feel incredibly calm and even some sort of pleasantness, and at the same time showing anger to the child, but that anger should not come from within, right? Because you can't let children do whatever they want. Children need, emotionally, psychologically, children need some manner of routine and some manner of boundaries. It's healthy for them psychologically, and can't have pushover parents. In contradistinction to what we see in some Western circles, where parents kind of need to be friends with their children, the Torah is quite clear that it's healthy for there to be some manner of hierarchy in a family. So along those lines, you need to set boundaries for children, and sometimes that needs to also be done with feigning anger. Okay, but again, it's this very, very, very fine line of using that tool while not letting it come from an emotional place. Okay, clause 23. It's permissible to kill animals that cause distress to people. Okay, there's a story brought in the Talmud here about a certain rabbi, and like worms are infesting his area, so he goes and he kills a bird to try to kind of basically distract the worms with the bird's blood. This is like the Talmudic source. There is one of our foremost sages in the United States, Rabbi Moshe Feinstein of blessed memory. He was a foremost halachic authority in the United States. He died, I think, about 20 or 30 years ago. He writes that if say like flies or mosquitoes or something are disturbing a person, so the person should do whatever they can to not go out of their way, basically not go out of their way to go kill such animals, but that it is permissible. It is permissible. Nevertheless, he writes, if it's possible, not to do it like directly with a person, like slapping swatting, let's say, a fly with your hand. Again, preferable not to do it with our hand directly, and to, I don't know, like flick it with a piece of paper or something like that. But nevertheless, again, if it's causing some distress to the family, a person's learning, a person's in the middle of something, and there's no other way, okay, so it's even permissible to kind of smack the mosquito or something with the person's hand. It's important to know always when we're learning the distinction between what's called like the baseline law, that which everybody is required to follow, and basically like what's called like midat chasidut, or stringencies above the baseline, above the letter of the law, that may not be required of the person, but certain people have like an inclination to this extra holiness. So it's told of our holy rabbi, the Arizal, Rabbi Isaac Luria, lived approximately the 16th century, one of our foremost Kabbalists. It's brought that he went to great lengths not to kill any creature unnecessarily. Not even these flies and these insects that are distressing him. Went out of his way not to do this. I think that the reasoning behind this is quite clear. We're trying to distance ourselves as much as possible from mercilessness, from ruthlessness, and not diminishing life where it's not necessary. So as we see before, and as we'll see even below, where necessary, it's not only permitted. There are times when it's required, right? But using that dispensation, using that permission carefully. Okay, this might be a famous one. It's talked a lot about with regards to ritual slaughter. Okay, it's forbidden to cause suffering to animals where there is no benefit to human beings. Okay, we're saying as above before. Okay, we're not going out of our way to cause any suffering to animals. I think we'll discuss it. Maybe it's in clause 25. Let's see here. Okay, right. So it's permissible to kill animals for human benefit, such as for food, clothing, or medical research, as long as unnecessary animal suffering is avoided. Okay, so as my rabbi in the United States once said, we can do as much as we possibly can to avoid unnecessary animal suffering. But at the end of the day, if you want to eat a hamburger, you kind of have to take the cow from being alive to being dead. So the Torah permits this, and as we said, there are certain times when it's even a commandment, right? We have certain sacrifices that please God will bring in the temple, and the Korban Pesach, etc. There's a commandment, on the holidays to eat wine, to eat meat and drink wine. So there's permission to do this, and it's even a mitzvah in certain situations, but we need to use this permission carefully. And so too about medical research, if you want to talk about like lab rats, etc. Clothing, okay. We have like our phylacteries, the filin, okay. As we see, this is it's a very, very fine line about things that we permit, but permit like with an asterisk. Just see some flashing in the text in the chat, so I'm gonna see if it's relevant to the current clauses here. I would like to ask if it's good animals to control their numbers, especially if the castration is not practiced. Netzach asks an interesting question. Is it permissible to kill animals to control their numbers, especially if castration is not practiced? Okay, so we'll see down here below in verse 26, okay, that there are those who prohibit Noahides from castrating males, whether human or animal, but this view is not accepted by all. Nevertheless, this prohibition is worthy of consideration. So Netzach is asking about killing animals to control their numbers. That's an interesting question. I guess you're controlling their numbers for a reason, right? It is for human benefit at the end of the day. If let's say, I don't know, I think there was, if they're having some sort of like a detrimental effect on the ecosystem, if they're causing direct harm or discomfort to human beings, if they're going through other resources that we need to kind of keep everything afloat, if it's water, if it's grass, etc. I think Netzach, I would say that it does fall under this permission that it is for human benefit. I have only male animals. Issue. Question remains. Thanks. Okay, fine. So I urge you, as Netzach is doing, if there are questions related directly to the clauses that we're learning, please don't hesitate. At the end, we'll take other questions, and then if there are questions that are slightly more like theoretical or philosophical in nature, then we'll leave them for the end also.
I will say just one point, please, Lee, if it's okay. I'm speaking of what we call the Halacha 21, okay? That in the footnotes, it says that you can, if you have no choice, but the only way of teaching your kid is by hitting him. So you can do that, and you explained very nicely to do this without any anger and anything else. But still, it is recommended to try to avoid hitting, physically. And if you will think about this, always, I'm not speaking about 3 years old or 4 years old that from time to time you might put him in the structure. Okay, if someone like 3 years old will try to teach to touch the electricity, so you have no choice. You need to smack his hand. But I'm speaking about kids, 6 years old and bigger than that. There are always other ways how to, I will say, to touch the point that is hurting them without hitting them, okay? There are a lot of things that are disturbing them. And if you know how to put the boundaries on the places where it's hard for them, it's not less hurting than just smacking. So this is something to realize, but we need a lot of pray to God to help that He will assist us to bring the next generation to the right place. Let's see.
I'm just now remembering a story. One of our sages here in Jerusalem, he lived, I think about also 30, 40 years ago. I think it's Rabbi Aryeh Levine, Rabbi Chaim. It's told of him that there was a student who was being incredibly disrespectful to the rabbi in the class. The rabbi came up to him and stood there for a moment, silently, and left the room. Okay, good. Students are wondering what's going on. Okay, comes back in, the rabbi, goes up to the student again, stands there silently, and he leaves the room again. He comes in a third time. He comes up to the student, and he gives the student a slap. And it's told that the student felt that slap was coming from such a place of, as we said, it's very, very calculated and such a place of love that the rabbi only wanted to teach this child a boundary. He didn't want to now take revenge and how are you, God forbid, how could you disrespect me in front of the other students and like that. He felt that it was coming from such pure intentions that the boy immediately corrected his ways. Okay, so we touched also on about killing animals for human benefit. We touched on verse 26, clause 26 about castration, that there are those who prohibit it, and even if it's not accepted by all this view, nevertheless it's worthy of consideration. Okay, like not unnecessarily mutilating the body. Okay, commonly clause 27, commonly accepted ethical standards obligate a person to save another one who is in danger. As we said previously, this worldview that we're all connected. We're all the sons and daughters of God, and we all have a holy spark in us, a holy soul, and this connects each and every one of us. And this kind of avut adadit, this mutual obligation, mutual commitment to one another. Clause 28. It's appropriate for a Noahide who killed someone by accident to exile himself to another city or country at a time when city of refuge laws are in effect for Jews. A resident alien who kills accidentally exiles himself to such a city. Please God, this will never be relevant for any of you. But theoretically speaking, what are these cities of refuge? They're discussed clearly in the Torah. They are not yet in effect presently. And they apply to only certain situations. Again, this will all be only theoretical. Okay, as the footnote here says, what is a resident alien? See chapter 1, paragraph 7 above. Okay, along the same lines as the thing in the desert and etc. Preservation of life. Clause 29. No one should injure himself or bring himself or others into dangerous situations in which there is no benefit, as occurs when someone drives at excessive speeds. Okay, so it's not only a civil law, there is a Torah commandment. It's within the will of God for us to protect the holy life that we were given, and not to unnecessarily endanger ourselves. You see all these like amazing acrobatic these videos of like all these amazing guys like jumping from one building to another and doing all these like extreme sports. It's one thing if a person learns how to do it in such a way that like it's slightly less dangerous, okay, but it's another thing where it's being done like completely for sport. And a person, you see, even in football, okay, this is not like this is not the express purpose of football is to like injure one another, but there are like serious ramifications psychologically, physiologically for a lot of players. So these are things that we don't necessarily look at amicably, and putting ourselves in dangerous situations for no reason. Okay, and extending that even further. Okay, a guardrail should be built around a roof to avoid danger. This is brought out of an explicit verse in the Torah. And so too, preventive measures should be adopted concerning any potentially dangerous situation. Okay, so the case discussed explicitly in the Torah. Let's see if the verse is down here below. Okay, it's here in Deuteronomy 22. Okay, it's about a person buying a house. Okay, and he needs to, as it says here explicitly, put a guardrail around the roof, so God forbid that a person shouldn't fall. But I believe it's Maimonides as well who extends this definition to anything, to as we said here, to preventive measures should be adopted concerning any potentially dangerous situation. Okay, so I heard from one of our rabbis here in class that he gave over. Okay, practically speaking, let's say kids in our house, little kids. So what did I do? I having this in mind that this rabbi taught, I went and I taped over the sockets. Okay, so they can't, God forbid, stick anything in there. Okay, if it's we recently had to install in the past few years had to install what do you call it, the safety seats for the car seats for our little kids. Okay, so going and making sure that they're up to date and that they haven't expired, and making sure I install them correctly. All of this is included in this mitzvah. It's making sure that we're protecting life. It's not just like a nice thing to do. We're including in this a holy aspect that in this seemingly mundane little details of flipping the manual. What is this guy doing? Flipping through the manual. And just connect the thing to the clip in the car, and you're good to go. But connecting to this mundane act, the will of God, and now this everyday action connects me with my Creator and connects me with His will in the world. Okay, so too, extending it even further beyond me. Care should be taken not to place any obstacle on a road that could cause injury to another person, and such obstacles should be removed from any location where passers-by could sustain damage or injury. And this is taken from one of our previous Torah portions. I think it's in Mishpatim, where there's a bore, there's like a ditch, okay, and either the person made the ditch himself or found the ditch and uncovered it, and should he cover it again? So this is talking about like any of these potentially dangerous situations in the public domain, and either correcting them, kind of like, let's say, putting a fence around, or making alerting people to such a danger. And this also being very important in the will of God. I heard a wonderful story about one of our rabbis in Jerusalem. He was on his way to deliver a class. Okay, and he came a little bit early, and he arrived in the neighborhood in Jerusalem, and he's on his way to deliver. He gets off the bus, and he's walking along to reach the class. And he sees along the side. This is in one of the neighborhoods in Jerusalem called Har Nof. It's a very elevated neighborhood, and there are like steep drop-offs. It's kind of like separate levels in this neighborhood. And in this particular section, he gets off the bus and he sees that there's a fence and there's some construction taking place, right near this cliff, right near this edge. And he sees that in a section of the fence actually somehow got unhooked, and there's a small opening. And he's thinking to himself, okay, on one hand, I'm going and I'm now teaching many people Torah, and it's a very important mitzvah. As my daughter asks me, as I'm telling this story, she says, but Daddy, he's going to teach the Torah, and the Torah is the most important thing. And the rabbi taught us that in this situation, he said, look, I can't go and teach the Torah when I'm not fulfilling it here, practically speaking, in my everyday life. And he stood there and he called whoever he needed to call, and he waited there so a little kid wouldn't, God forbid, pass by and get curious and God forbid, put himself in danger. So I told her, we can't go and teach the Torah and learn the Torah in this theoretical fashion when we're not putting her into practice. Okay, so any such obstacles, you see glass, some shattered glass or something along the way. I saw there was like a big rock along the way to our synagogue along Shabbat. So I kicked it along the side because there's a bunch of little kids running around. Somebody's not going to see it and they could trip over. So you can use your imagination applying this rule. Okay, clause 32. According to commonly accepted ethical standards, the prohibition of murder includes any behavior that diminishes the life of another, such as public embarrassment, insult, or even unfair competition in business. Now, this is like incredibly far-reaching and needs to make us very aware and very careful. We can say something and we think it's a joke, and we don't know that it's actually incredibly embarrassing for the other person, and they might not even tell us. And we will have broken this bond. That we will have gone against the will of God. I think we're just throwing a joke. This guy. I don't know if it's talking about his physical appearance or something else, and standing around in a group, joking around. And as we said previously, the Torah is coming to very clearly break with the idea that talk is cheap. And talk isn't cheap. Okay, it becomes cheap when you don't give it any meaning. Okay, but the Torah starts with speech. God creating the world through speech, and the message is clear that you can create and you can, God forbid, destroy just with the power of speech. Okay, so too, I can destroy a person's image. God forbid, you can destroy a person's well-being and his financial well-being through such things. Okay, and even unfair competition. I think, practically speaking, like a sage should be the rabbi or no-head sage should be consulted. What exactly constitutes unfair competition? Does this prohibit me from opening up a store immediately next to my neighbor? Or does it have to be over the next town over or the next state? The exact parameters a sage should be consulted. Okay, and going even further, no one should say, 33 and 34 along the same lines. No one should say anything bad about another person, even if it is true. Even if it is true. And even more so, should not tell lies about that person. So you might think, this person is so conniving, and I'm gonna go tell other people about it, and it's or even tell him about it. Okay, and it's even if that is true, it's nevertheless okay. As one rabbi explained it to me, there's a difference. How did he explain? He said that the opposite of truth is not falsehood. The opposite of truth is disharmony. So that you could be saying something that is technically true, okay, but if it brings disharmony, then it's actually false. Nevertheless, okay, there's a very important caveat, okay, which is regarding a wicked person. It's in clause 34. It's permissible to publicize the bad deeds of an evil person. Why? Specifically, in order that this person will not continue to cause damage to others, and in order to set him straight. And so too, when there is a need to check someone's suitability for a certain position, it's permissible to ask about his history and circumstances. Okay, so if you know a person is lying in business and causing direct damage to his clients, okay, then it's not only permitted, it would be like a mitzvah to go out and tell your friend, don't do business with this guy. There's very clear evidence that he's causing damage to all these people. Okay, there's a bunch of flashing going on, so let's just take a quick break. Can you make it any key writing on evil speech? Michaela asks, key writing on evil speech. So there's a wonderful book put together approximately 100 years ago, Nitzor L'shoncha, guard your mouth or guard your tongue, written by he's called the Chafetz Chaim. Oh, wonderful. Okay, I see Wana already wrote about it. So his nickname is the Chafetz Chaim, and as a rabbi who lived in Poland about 100 years ago, put together a lot of the key Torah sources on good and bad speech. It's a wonderful book. It's been translated into English, I believe, also by Art Scroll, and they even split up the book into daily reading. Very important reading. Rabbi Yonah of Gerona, wonderful. Okay, so everybody's. I can assign you all to the questions. So thank you, Wana. Rabbi Yonah of Gerona, right? His gates of repentance. Rabbi Yonah of Gerondi or of Gerona. sage lived about 700-800 years ago, wrote Sha'arei Tshuva, The Gates of Repentance. Also a very important book about correcting our character traits, what the essence of repentance. Also talking about important good speech. A more difficult book, but nevertheless one of our core sources, one of our classic sources. Okay, and Lara is pointing you also to Psalms. Okay, there's wonderful messages through the psalmist about the essence of good and evil speech. Okay, and there's even a program on YouTube, somebody's saying. Okay, and Rabbi Joseph Telushkin, Travis is saying, words that hurt and words that heal. Thank you all. Making my job easier. Okay. Clause 35. I think we're almost wrapping up. Wonderful. Okay, we're almost wrapping up chapter 5. And just in time, it's 9:10. We still have a couple minutes. Okay, a person should not hate another person secretly in his heart, without revealing to that person what in fact he feels towards him. It is best, of course, that he should not hate him at all. Okay, so there's a couple of things here. Number one, the Torah isn't only about what are called chovot ha'evarim, the requirements or the commandments of action, like keeping Shabbat, like sitting in a sukkah, like whatever it is, certain physical actions, putting on like a talit. Okay, these are holy physical actions. Okay, there's an entirely different realm, and as I believe I mentioned in the past, there's an entire book written about the importance of what are called chovot halevavot, the duties of the heart. These are really the foundation, if you will, that kind of instill or bring life to the duties of the limbs. So this book, I'll just I'll repeat it again. It's written by Rabbeinu Bachya of Saragossa, written about 1,000 years ago. Also, I think I mentioned it in the past. I gave a link to it in the past. Also translated into English, I think. Also by ArtScroll. ArtScroll has a lot of these classic sources translated into English with wonderful commentary. So he speaks, Rabbeinu Bachya underscores the importance of duties of the heart. And these are, to a degree, to a vast degree, much more difficult, because it's not like a physical action where here it stops and here it ends. Here, this is an emotion. And again, the Torah is commanding us to a very tall order, which is to use the intellect to contain, to bridle, to channel the emotion. Right. So unbridled passion is not a Torah concept. So here specifically, it's talking about hatred, and it's even something that we hold internally. We haven't even shared it. Okay, that this we need to undo. We need to, as it says here, the best being, of course, that a person should not hate his neighbor at all. We need to somehow put ourselves in their situation. Try to be not quick to judge. Okay, as it says in Ethics of the Fathers. Okay, don't judge a person until you've been in his situation. Okay, and then the rabbis ask the students ask the rabbi, so how can we judge the person? We're never going to be in his situation. And it says that's exactly the point. That while we need to put a cap on certain evil actions and evil speech, etc., we're judging the action and not judging the person. And so we also need to use this very carefully. Nevertheless, it also speaks here about revealing to that person what, in fact, he feels towards him. Okay, there's a very important caveat to this statement, because you can say, "Oh, this guy, whatever, ripped me off or cut me off on the street, and I'm gonna go show him because I want to fulfill the mitzvah of not keeping it in my heart, so I'm gonna go show him who's boss." Okay, so it's important, as we said previously, that it shouldn't come from a place of emotion. Okay, it should come from a place of love, as the Rambam states, Maimonides states, that the commandment of rebuking our brother, or rebuking our neighbor, the essence of this commandment is the intention to to bring our neighbor, not to like lash out and just show him who's boss. The intention, the pure intention, is to correct his ways, is to help him get back to the true path. And when it comes out of such a place, it's as our sages teach, words that come from the heart enter the heart. There's another very important caveat to this, which is a Talmudic statement, which is as follows. It says, "Kashem she'en mitzvah lomar davar hanishma, kach mitzvah shelo lomar davar shelo nishma." Just as it is a commandment to say something which you know will be heard and accepted, and the person's ear is open to you, so too it is a commandment not to say something that you know will not be accepted. The person is, he's totally hot-headed right now. He's in the, the thing just happened. This person is hot-headed in general, and he's not very quick to accept advice. We need to, even when we want to fulfill this clause and this commandment, we need to do it very carefully in the right situation, not to do it in public, to try to do it subtly in some sort of, to hint at it, to choose the right timing. As we said, there is a dispensation for this. Ideally, we should remove such a feeling from our heart entirely. But when it's necessary, because we can't just let everybody do whatever they want, the Torah is totally against the idea of being a doormat, right? That the meek shall inherit the earth. It's not a Torah concept, right? We're always talking about the very, very fine balance between kindness and judgment, giving and taking, so to speak, love and boundaries. And it's this very, very this golden path, but this very, very fine line, which we're aiming for. Okay, I think we spoke about this in the past. This comes from my Rabbi Hillel when one of the students came to was asking about Judaism. Non-Jews coming to ask Hillel about Judaism. What is the essence of Judaism? Okay, so instead of talking to him about Ve'ahavta l're'acha kamocha, we spoke about this in the Torah portion, Kedoshim, you shall all be holy, you shall be a holy people. He told it to him in the negative. What is hateful to you, do not do to anyone else, rather than saying, love thy neighbor. And one of the explanations that we gave previously was that saying it in the positive is to a degree setting up the person for failure, because we either don't know exactly what they need or we can't give them exactly what they need. And to say it in the negative is more exact, is more realistic. You certainly know what you don't want done to you, and we should definitely be avoiding this for our neighbor. Okay, last but not least, the wasting of seed is not expressly prohibited for Noahides. Nevertheless, it's still not an appropriate act, but for medical reasons or for fertility treatments, it's permissible. Okay, you see a lot of the common thread of a lot of these laws, and I'm not sure if it's discussed here in Brit Shalom, but you see this also in other Talmudic sources. God giving dispensation for a lot of wonderful things to increase life in quantity and quality, and at the same time, as we spoke about, this very, very fine line between this wonderful desire for life and also channeling that desire in a positive and constructive way.
I will say for that just a moment, Arish, I will give you permission to say, I think that we spoke about this more than once. The question is, do I want only to receive things, to receive life, or I want also to give life? By doing this, wasting the seeds of the man, it's more connected to their own, I will say, feeling, or their own good that person is getting with himself, instead of doing it in the right place. This is one of the things why it's inappropriate. On the other side, we know that in Europe, in the late 19th, we had a very big, late 18th, I'm sorry, we had a very big masses of youngest who committed suicide because of that thing. And we need also to realize the truth, I will say, the situation with this thing. But again, the main thing is, just like Lee said, is we want to bring more life to this world, not to do all sorts of joy for ourselves, and that's it. Harish, first of all, I got your email. I didn't manage it to organize it, but very nice. Thank you very much with all of the translations and everything else. Great. I will also answer that. Okay. So you wanted to ask something? Yes.
Okay, yeah. Thank you, Rabbi. Rabbi, my question is regarding one point where it said that when two people are in the desert and one has enough water for himself, he is not obligated to give that water to somebody else because his life takes precedence over the others. I had one question. Since we are allowed to kill animals for food, and connecting it with this desert story, there was this one incident in Chile where people were stuck on this mountain some years ago. I don't know when exactly. And after some time, some of them started dying, and the ones who were alive were eating the flesh of the people who died. I mean, they were eating humans. Can that be any time permissible? Or and also, I mean,
That was
those
in the
humans were already
Andes
dead, and
Mountains
then that
in
flesh
South
was
America in
eaten.
the 70s.
But I wanted to ask whether also some people kill humans and eat their flesh. So I mean, the answer to these two questions, whether killing a human and eating it is allowed or not, and whether eating the flesh of a dead human is allowed or not.
It's an interesting question. The truth is that it's not written anywhere that it's not allowed to do that. And let's do differentiation. Okay, to kill someone for sure it's not allowed. Okay, this is for sure it's not allowed. But if you're in a situation when someone is eating the meat of someone else, it's not written in the Bible straightforward not to do that. Now, it's not honoring the person who died, and it's not something good to do, and it's an inappropriate behavior. Again, if you got stuck, in some sort of, God forbidden, a crash, and you only a few people left over in some sort of an island, and you have nothing else to eat, and if you want to eat, you will die. Those are very, very unique situation. I don't know, God forbidden from giving us to bringing us to those situations. But if someone have the choice or to die or to eat from this meat, so I think he's supposed to eat from the meat before he will die. But usually, the honor that we're giving to people is that we are burying them and not that we are eating them. So it's not written
I
down
mean,
even.
I just asked this question in general, as it is, I'm a vegetarian. I mean, I don't want people thinking I'm going to eat human flesh sometime in life.
Yes.
Now, Rabbi, is there not a halakha prohibition against eating carrion, things that have died by the side of the road? Something that is just strangled or deceased. It's already dead. They're not supposed to eat something that's already died by, say, the side of the road. Carrion.
This is true. Right? In the Torah, it says, this is a verse, very important verse. I'll show the verse for a moment. Let me see if we find it here.
I just thought that would play into the matter.
Yes. There is a verse about this that it says, not this. I'm sorry. Not this one. I have too many windows open. Just a moment. Let's see. I didn't close it. If I'm here with you, I didn't close this one. Here it is. Let's open. Do you see my screen? There is a verse that says that we need to be holy people, and the way of being holy people is by not eating meat that is on the side of the road, okay, that died by itself. This is the way not being holy people. It is true. It's also, we know today that it's also related to the question of healthy, okay, to eat a dead animal. It's not always healthy because we don't know exactly why the animal died. Not all of them are dying just because they are old enough to die. Therefore, we need to be aware from that, and we need to be far from this behavior. But again, this is a way of becoming holy. It's not written anywhere. It's very strange, maybe, but it's not written anywhere that you're not allowed to. In the Bible, I'm speaking. Okay, that you're not allowed to eat the flesh, the meat of men who died. But as we understand, it's not reasonable to do that, and most of the world is not doing it. I'm not speaking about some cannibal people in I don't know where, somewhere in the Amazonas. But those again a unique situation that we hope not to be in those situations.
Thank you,
Fair
Rabbi.
enough. Not a problem. More questions? Do we have more questions?
We had a question in the chat from Lisette about evil speech about someone who's already died. So great question. Looked it up while we were talking. It is brought that it's inappropriate. It's inappropriate, and a person, the same rabbi who we spoke about previously, Chaim, says that a person needs to repent for doing such a thing. Also, because the person who has passed away cannot come to his own defense. So thank you, Lisette. And Angelica is talking about there being no food. God forbid having to be in such a situation that Harish mentioned. Can we not cry to God for food? Certainly, and this is always a good decision. But as we spoke about in a totally different context about kidney donation and it being well, I guess it's not entirely related, but basically what I wanted to say was certainly it's always a good thing to cry out to God, but sometimes the way that God wants us to get involved is by doing stuff and not just crying out to him, because you can say that about anything, right? So why should I get out of bed? I should just cry to God and food should just fall into my plate. So it's very true. We always need to pray and to pray to God that he gives us the strength, and whatever we do, even after we act, we should know after the fact that the strength that we got and the wisdom that we had, it's all from God. But right, the Torah is coming to ask God to be a partner in creation.
God is
ask man.
Yes, God is asking you to become partner in his creation. And this is why he's not giving us on the trees the bread. He's giving us the wheat, and we're doing from this bread. Because what God wants us to, he doesn't, think about this, the manna, okay, the Hebrew people that were for 40 years in the desert, they lived like Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. Okay, they had no problems with the clothing and they had no problems with food. But God doesn't want us to live in the desert for all of our lives. Okay, he asked us to come inside to the Hebrew land and to live here. And he stopped the manna because he wants us to become partners with him. And also think about this. If we were a nation that is living all of our lives in the desert and getting food from God, so people won't learn from us anything. They will say to us, those are very unbelievable people. They are not living in this world. They're like, in Mars, somewhere in Mars. It's something else. It's not part of this world. And this is why we need to live in this world. Of course, if there are very unique and hard situations, we need to cry to God, we need to pray to God. Those are things that we're going to do. And we're going to learn a bit what is exactly is the thing of praying. This is something else. Fine, everybody, fine. Good to see. I think that Dan, I'm done with us.
Yes, I'm here, Rabbi. Are we winding it down now? Are you doing a class next week? Because I know that Purim starts next week as well. So are we still on?
Later on. Yes, we're doing the class next week, of course. Why not? We're going to learn.
All right.
From the Bible, we will continue. We'll start with Abraham. Be
Beautiful.
aware, we're going to start with Abraham. Unique things that we're going to learn about Abraham.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, I really enjoyed today's class. And I'm really enjoying Lee Fogel really sharing the Brit Shalom. If you've not got a copy, folks, Brit Shalom, check it out online. Brit Shalom, Practical Applications for Noahites. We've been going through it in detail. It's a joy to have Lee share it so concise with us. So until next week, we hope you guys have a wonderful, wonderful week, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Iwana, for the
Thank you,
plug.
Rabbi.